Hello and welcome to another episode of My Property World podcast. I'm delighted to be joined by Mo and Mike, M&M. So, Mo, could you briefly introduce yourself to the listeners, please?
Yes, thanks, Will, and thanks for inviting me on. I'm Mo Haykir. I'm director of KHP Group and Moorview Property. So I'm a full-time property investor and developer. We've got a development company specialising in listed and heritage building conversions, converting sort of former chapels and hotels and buildings like that into high-end apartments for sale. And we also have an HMO investment portfolio and a management company, Moorview Lets. Yeah, that's about it, I think.
And the southwest of England is your focus area?
Yeah, so we're primarily focused in all of the stock that we hold on and rent out is in Plymouth, in Devon, and the developments are basically across Devon, and we sort of go a bit further afield as well. So,
fantastic. And Mike Bristow.
Hi, Will. Hi, Mo. Great to be here. Mike Bristow, CEO and co-founder of Crowd Property. We've now backed £400 million worth of property projects. I think that's latest numbers, I think, was 1,858 homes being built, including a good few by KHP Group as well, and Mo, which we can definitely delve into in this product. But we are a specialist property development lender that's packed full of passionate experts that are here to help and partner and increase the probability of success of your projects.
Well, fantastic, guys. Well, let's get on with the show. We've got a deal analysis today where we're going to look at how a site came together and how it got funded and how all the money came back, which, as I'm fond of saying to Mike, you don't lend out 400 million without getting some of it back along the way. So Mo, what is the site that we're talking about? Where is it? What is it? What was the plan and what changed?
Yeah, so I've actually got a little video which we'll talk over for the people that are just listening. So the site is Wyndham Hall, which is a former non-conformist chapel in Plymouth, in Devon, right in the centre of Plymouth. It was, if I look at my notes, it was built between 1836 and 1848. I don't know exactly. But yeah, it was a former non-conformist chapel used more recently as a gymnasium. So I'll play the video and we'll talk over it. So you can see it here. Amazing building. It was quite, the area the site next door was quite badly damaged during the Blitz. And as you can see from the inside, it was covered in pigeon poo. It's grade 2 listed. It's an absolutely amazing building. It had
obviously fallen into a bit of disrepair and was needing a friendly neighbourhood developer to come along and spruce it up a bit.
A little bit of TLC, yeah.
The thing that's really interesting about these photos also is that it seems the only thing in the building is a barber chair.
Yeah, right? I'll go back.
It's like some Tarantino torture den that it appears in
a chapel.
Yeah. And it was so heavy. It had a really, really heavy base. But yeah, so that was the that was the property. Absolutely amazing. We can see the potential in it. Just to give you a bit of context on the price, it was on the market for 250k, and it's absolutely huge. In Plymouth, 250k buys you a sort of average to poor condition 6-bed HMO. So we're looking at this thinking, wow, this is an incredible deal. Obviously, it needs a lot of work to it. Me being the eternal optimist, I go and look for new sites, just go in and think, yeah, brilliant, we'll turn that around for nothing. And then my business partners who actually know about construction come in and manage my expectations a bit. So yeah, amazing building.
And so what sort of physical site was it? What was the frontage and what was the total square meters of the site overall?
That is a very good question. I'm not sure on the exact, because basically there was a basement under here that you could see, and then it was just a completely open up to the roof. So we managed to we opened up the roof space and put a 7-bed flat in the roof. There's a 7-bed flat apartment that we put in the lower ground floor, which was under this floor here. And then we actually put in a floor basically between the two sets of windows in this image. So we actually got four floors out of it, and 6 flats in total, 2 7-beds, 4 for 4 beds.
And just for people to visualize it, we're looking at something that's about the size of a basketball court, but obviously that there's 4 stories of it, which is a fair size of a site. And you've got a beautiful, absolutely beautiful classical chapel frontage from the front. There's full street access. How many people were you competing with at the front end?
Not that many, to be honest. To be completely frank, there was. It'd been on the market for a while. It'd been vacant for about 13 years. The owners wanted to do something with it. They originally wanted to do sort of like an art gallery or something. In the short term, they've been using it as a gym, but it had actually been empty for 13 years. So. There wasn't that much competition for it, to be completely honest. It was in such poor condition. It's grade 2 listed, and I think that's definitely one of our competitive advantages, that we work with listed buildings and we're not afraid to develop them out, whereas other people sort of look at them and run a mile. And I guess that's one of the benefits working with Crowd Property as well, is that they understand that you can fund a listed building development if you are working with a developer that knows what they're doing and has got a track record in that area.
Okay, and you're comfortable talking us through the capital stack and what what the way in, the way through, and the other side look like?
Yeah. So the building was initially on the market for 250,000. So that was what it was marketed at. Protracted negotiations, we eventually ended up buying it for 180,000. All in, it was in the total Crowd Property loan, was just over $1 million. So we were all in for like $1 million. We actually ended up spending a little bit more than that, so we had to put in some more of our own money. The refinance was on the way in. The Crowd Property valuation was 1.4 million, and that's what we went. 1.9 million, and that's what we went in with. Unfortunately, the valuation at the back end actually came back at 1.4. So we ended up leaving in a fair bit more money than we wanted to in order to return the funds to Crowd Property. And I think the main takeaway for your listeners there, that the main lesson learned that we had, is even though we had the valuation on the way in, when it was valued afterwards, the valuer commented that he needed to see a year of track record in that area, because we were really pushing the ceiling prices for HMOs. In that area, and the average price was like £450 a room, and we're saying we're going to get £500 to £600 per room on average. So even though we had a good valuation on the way in, we didn't get the valuation on the way out. We had to run it for a year, prove that we could show occupancy at that level, and we got it refinanced with Shawbrook. We got a sort of further advanced product with Shawbrook on the refinance a few months ago. So we finally got the 1.9 valuation. It was actually a bit more than that, 1.935 in the end. But with the way it's calculated, I think it was calculated on an 8.5% yield on the refinance. So the more we can increase rents and the more we can keep it good quality, that the higher it's going to value.
And it's a big beautiful beast of a building that you've turned it into.
That's the after.
Like absolutely spectacular looking, and I can see how. Like it would be popular as a high-end HMO product. Like if you're what's your target market in terms of the demographics of the residents?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point as well around the design. So I think one of the reasons it wasn't that competitive on the way in is because it's quite hard to make something like that viable. So in that area, converting it into just flats so that you could sell or rent out, converting it into some sort of maisonette or houses just wasn't a viable solution. So we needed something really intense, sort of really intensive use of it. And we had a background in HMOs. We had a fairly substantial HMO portfolio, so we knew that we could do that there. And I think that's why we were able to actually make a scheme out of it, albeit we did have to get a reduction in the purchase price to make it work. So it's rented to working professionals. It's right in the centre of Plymouth. It's a few minutes walk from the train station. You can walk into town. It's absolutely perfect location. They're 4 4-bed flats, so they're sort of quite small, nice HMOs to live in, sort of only 3 other people. And then we've got a 7 in the roof and a 7 in the lower ground floor. So working professionals, slap bang in the centre of Plymouth, really good proposition.
Well, well done. And so Mike Bristow, you guys made it possible. You put the money in, and even though the uplift wasn't quite there in the revaluation to get off the development lending, you still had a 40% uplift against the level of lending. And you were first charge holders.
Yeah, so we were senior debt, and I think I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Mo. I think we were mid to high 90s in terms of loan to cost, and that really sort of helped you guys out. But I think I think my summary of this overall deal, I mean, it's one of my favourites that we funded, but it is all about timing, okay. And it's not the obvious way round. You think about timing, i.e. get everything done as quickly as goddamn possible, right? Because Mo and Philip were talking to us for quite some time when they were first looking at it, and it took some time for those protracted negotiations to play out. And we were in contact with them anyway because we're funding the previous project, Kingsley House, and it was actually through that process it was good because it was you guys weren't rushing into it. You're being very rational about the numbers, right? Yeah. You knew that nobody was chasing this down and nobody's going to nick it, and so actually it was a bit of a let's just hold, let's play it cool, let's not do the obvious property entrepreneur thing and pile in and snap it up immediately and get cracking. So I think that really strengthened the deal, and we were also able to sort of help shape that with you. And then quite early on, as you were wrapping up Kingsley House, we were doing like a video case study on Kingsley House. So we said to the guys, well, why don't you go around Wyndham Hall as well? And many of those photos are from that shoot, weren't they? And so it's really cool to really get it, because it was such a great scheme from start to finish, to get those early shots, those early videos. And you've got plenty of case studies. We've got a case study video on our site about it as well. So, and then it came to...
I was just going to say on that, Mike, how do you look at... when you guys are looking at deals, obviously this one as a deal that we were holding on to and we were going to refinance, it sort of gives you a bit more headroom. If we'd gone into this saying, we were going to flip it and sell it on, I think from our point of view, we'd probably say actually no, because if there's any major risks come in, we're not going to be able to, exit with the profit we want. But actually having the ability to hold it and rent it out sort of gives you a bit more confidence going in. How do you guys view that?
So we look at that. I think it's a really good point. So on a few different levels. So we have greater flexibility when we critique profit on cost for an HMO or something that'll be held to rent out, and that's for a number of reasons. A, because HMOs don't always stack on a perfect 20-25% profit on cost model, right? So you've got to be understanding of that. So if that's the case, then where are we mitigating risk on it? Well, we're mitigating risk because we're backing the developers who have an ambition and a motivation to build a property business that includes holding a portfolio for long-term wealth creation. Understanding that fundamentally is important. And then guess what? Well, they're building the asset they're going to keep, right? So it's built well, right? And that is really, really important to how we look at it. And this is a big trend in the market, not necessarily to the extent that you go to in development mode, but people taking on more of a project to buy something initially, add some value, okay, refi that out, hold it, and they're building a portfolio in a way that isn't so totally reliant, like in the old days, of capital growth and capital recycling. And we back that well and truly. But the fundamentals are, we want to see that ambition, that passion, that motivation to be in property for the long term. We don't want someone coming to us with Wyndham Hall saying, I was a bit bored this year and I found this one. I quite like the idea of being a property developer, because guess what? Someone going in like that will probably do one, stuff it up, never do it again, right?
I guess the the other risk mitigation for us when we came to you was we own the lettings agency, we own the lettings business. So, we're going to be optimizing for maximum occupancy and actually have control over that as well. And we can flex as we need to, which definitely came into its own, given that we finished this project just before sort of COVID kicked off, and we had to actually pivot. We had to put one flat into housing key workers and NHS people from the NHS. So that really helped in that respect. One more thing I forgot on the capital stack was we actually got an empty homes loan. So we worked with Plymouth City Council. We were able to access £150,000, of which 15,000 was a grant, and 135 was a 0% loan for 10 years. Which was fantastic. So it was an amazing thing to have. It definitely helped us in our discussions with the planners and with listed building as well, because there was so much momentum to and drive to get this thing converted. There were squatters, it was an arson risk, there was like loads of other things going on. So as well as the cash, I think from a momentum point and actually getting it through planning and things like that really helped.
And it's a interesting point where people, I've never understood, like if you've taken all the risks, you've put all the work in, and you've created value, why would you sell it? You can sell it at any time in the future. Why wouldn't you enjoy it for a little period of time, get a bit of the cash flow, and what Crowd Property and I suppose other development finance options do is they allow you to get to that position. And what would be really nice to hear is a couple of details about that. There's always something goes wrong in the build.
I've got a long list, Will. So
let's fire out. What are the first three that come to mind?
You should see the longer list we've got. No.
I can just see the call going into you, Mike. We've just had a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
Hey, but on that, sorry, just on that point though, that is perfect, right? Nobody ever calls Lloyd's Bank saying, "I've got these problems on site," right? We genuinely, this is where we help, right?
Dealing in reality. Sorry, Mike. What are your
okay? So I'll list them off. So number one, negotiations with owners. Like everyone has that. Everyone thinks their building's worth more than it actually is. So that's sort of, we can skirt over that. An interesting one was the negotiation with the neighbouring landowners. So the neighbouring landowners was a sort of local housing authority. They had some garages that are next door. Even though they didn't have a plan to ever build on that, we had to drive some windows down one side of the building. And that did sort of sterilise parts of their site potentially for future development. So the thing with that was they agreed to the principle of it. The bit that took the time was it had to go up to the board, and then if there's any change, it has to come back down, and it's so bureaucratic, and it just ended up. It was more of a time thing than it's going to be a deal breaker. But that was one thing. And negotiation with next door. The roof, we thought we could keep the original roof. Worked out we couldn't, so we had to replace the whole roof. The back wall fell down as we were halfway through, so we ended up having to basically rebuild part of the wall that we didn't think we were going to. The down valuation, I mean, that's pretty mega, 500k down valuation. We had some fairly expensive sort of mezzanine finance as well in the end, because we did have a bit of overspend on the project because it was an absolute beast of a project to do. So we had some sort of mezzanine finance that we wanted to clear after we'd obviously cleared the Crowd Property loan, and unfortunately the valuation didn't allow us to do that. So we were then stuck with some still paying the mezzanine finance even like from cash flow basically once we'd gone through the refi, which was sort of frustrating, but we ended up clearing that, which was fine. I mean, I could go on, but I don't think you want your podcast to be 2 hours long. So they are the main ones.
Well, that's like a reality-based. I have never come across a building project that went exactly to plan. And when you found out the roof, like the removal of the roof in itself is a bit of a drop. How did they physically get it down, and what needed?
I think we did it with a. I think we did it with a. I think it might even have been in the video. I think it was with one of those. you'll probably guess I'm not the like technical construction person within the team. I do the podcast, and that's sort of my speciality. I don't know what it's called, but I think it's called a HIAB. Is it where it's like an arm that comes out?
Crane,
like a crane with a thing. I think they actually ended up doing that because the site was very tight. I suppose it's another constraint within the site that it was a very tight site. We had some permission from the neighbouring landowners to use like part of their site for scaffolding and things like that. But actually, the garages were in use. We couldn't get a crane in. It wasn't really financially viable to do that. So we actually just had to high up the sort of new roof trusses and stuff from the road, basically shut the road off. So that was how we did it. And it was. I think the thing with that as well is it would have been really nice for the aesthetic of the building to use the original roof trusses, and it was all like it was amazing up there. I got a nice picture of me and my mum up there with the original roof still in place. Wow. But as soon as you take them out, you're like, wow, we've got loads more space now. And actually,
you didn't get a picture on the ground floor with all the pigeon poo, I take it.
not with my mum. No.
I think the key here is, as you said, Will, it's, these are projects. Stuff goes wrong on projects, all the time, right? There can be small things, it can be big things, but you sort of work hard to mitigate the risks up front, Stuff still goes wrong, You get on it, you communicate, and working with the partners on the team to say, well, look, we've seen this before, or we've tackled it like this before, or or whatever, and you get through it. It's why there are so many one-time developers out there, right?
Yeah. I think the other, I don't know, Mike, you have to sort of jump in if your policies change, but I think what you said earlier about like you wouldn't ring Lloyd's Bank up or anyone else up and say like, oh, we've got a problem, blah, blah, etc. I think the fact that we could have a really honest conversation with you about the second charge lending and the mezz finance and stuff, and that was really sort of reassuring that actually you can ring up and say, we've got a problem, we've got a challenge, we're going to need to do this. How does that sit with you? We weren't scared to do that, and I think that's really, really important. Do you want to talk to that, Mike? That sort of position?
Yeah, exactly. All of it is a conversation, right? Probably the lender that most damaged their brand ever was RBS in 2008, 2009, repossessing and fire selling everything, right? That is not a property-minded approach. A property-minded approach is, hey, look, let's all work. By the way, it's not that we were about to repossess or anything. But
that was the next phone call about to come in.
Yeah. But it's just that communication just makes everything clear. It means all of us can work together on solving, and it just makes good sense, right? And then everyone knows that they can just phone up and have a chat through the real situation, and we get that a lot, because stuff goes wrong. And the prime example, right, is through the pandemic, right? People phoning up and saying, right, God, I can't get this, I don't know how to do that, what are the latest rules and regs or whatever. And we were sort of cross-fertilizing all information, writing policy docs, distributing out to our developers, including, it's like, where can you get doors in the Midlands? Really practical level stuff that adds value, because look, what we want to do is maximize the chance of success of your projects, and guess what? That's good for us as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So Mo, I'm very keen to get you guys back on for another one pretty shortly. What I would recommend anyone who's listening to the podcast do is look up the video. What's the easiest single place to find it, Mo?
The best place to find it is if you go to YouTube and type in the property vlog. It's also in the description. If you're watching online, it's in the description wherever you're watching. But type in the property vlog on YouTube, and in the playlist there's a video which is called, I think it's called something like Talking Through Our Award-Winning Project, Wyndham Hall, and that goes into a bit more detail about what we sort of talked about here. And there's a few other projects, a few of our other projects on there, and various videos. The
video is a classic transformation from what's literally a pile of shit into an amazing finished product.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, absolutely.
And that's what development's about, and that's what development finance is about. So, Mo Haykir and Mike Bristow, great to have you on.
Great stuff.
I'm
Thanks,
Will
Will.
Mallard. This is My Property World podcast. Thank you.